Hello and welcome to the GM overview for the Outlaws of Alkenstar Adventure Path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. For those new here, my adventure overviews are divided into two parts. In this first video, I will discuss the themes and general story of the campaign, but it will be objective in tone and somewhat light on spoilers, especially regarding the adventure's final act. This is so GMs can get an idea of what the adventure is about, but not spoil so much that they wouldn't be able to enjoy the adventure as a player themselves should they watch this and then decide not to GM it. My next video will be for those GMs who want more information. There, I will present my personal thoughts about the quality of the adventure as well as full context for parts of the story that are missing from Part 1. In the Part 2 video, I will also answer any questions that are posted in the comments section here. Outlaws of Alkenstar is a 3-book adventure path that takes players from 1st to 11th level. The characters for this campaign all start with two things in common. They're all wanted by the law, and they each have a grudge against a man named Ambrose de Mugin. Mugin is a wealthy banker and power broker in the city, and the adventure does not dictate exactly why the players are wanted outlaws or why they want revenge against Mugin. Instead, it will be each player's responsibility to craft these details into their character's background before the game starts. To assist with this, the free Player's Guide Online provides 6 new backgrounds to help. For example, the ratted out gunrunner background establishes you as a smuggler who was ratted out to the law by Mugin when you refuse to give him a cut of your profits. In general, characters in this campaign are expected to be outlaws with hearts of gold. Han Solo and the crew of Serenity from Firefly would be right at home in these adventures. Book 1, Punks in a Powder Keg. The adventure begins, like all good westerns, with the players meeting a contact in a saloon. Phoebe Dunsmith, the owner of the Barrel and Bullet Saloon, has a bone to pick with Ambrose Mugin and wants to hire the players to break into the bank where Mugin keeps his gold and free him of it. This heist plays out over 12 hours, which are divided into 2-hour segments for the players to decide how best to use. For example, they can spend time casing the bank, visiting saloons to try and find a bank employee to coax information out of, or check their intended escape route before starting the actual break-in. Assuming all goes well, they should be able to get into the bank's vault, claim as much gold as possible from Mugin, and get out. Their escape takes them through a scrapyard while being pursued by a group of crooked shield marshals who are in Mugin's pocket. The scrapyard is, of course, also home to a tribe of goblins led by the illustrious Lord Glass, who might be willing to assist the players if they play their cards right. Once the players navigate their way out of the scrapyard, they should be free to return to the Barrel and Bullet Saloon to complete their mission. Having impressed Dunsmith with their abilities and struck a blow to Mugin, she offers the players another job. An eccentric inventor named Vashan Gattleby has invented what basically amounts to Golarian's version of nitroglycerin called pyronite. Several shady people, including Mugin, want Gattleby in his formula for pyronite and probably won't ask nice or take no for an answer. So Dunsmith wants the players to safely escort the inventor from his home on the other side of Alkenstar to the saloon. They'll have 4 days of downtime to accomplish this, and can spend that time on special activities like scouting the route through the city they plan to use, gathering information at saloons, crafting alchemical items to help them, and so on. Actually extracting Gattleby from his home has a few interesting complications that feel on brand for his eccentric nature, and there are a few further complications for the players to navigate around as they try to escort him across the busy industrial city. This plays out over several special events like trying to cross the aptly named Bottleneck Bridge while evading a local gang attempting to capture the inventor. And a solid portion of the extraction plays out using the chase mechanics and includes 5 locations and obstacles for the players to deal with. The last chapter of Book 1 deals with the Powder Keg Punks, the same gang that tried to ambush the players at the bridge. Specifically, Phoebe Dunsmith wants the players to investigate the gang and find out who hired them to try and capture Gattleby. This investigation will lead to more interesting locations within Alkenstar, including a club for rodeo champions, a dance hall, and eventually the gang's hideout. This section of the adventure plays out as a 10-room dungeon crawl that eventually leads to another encounter with some of the city's crooked law enforcement. This turns into another chase scene as they flee from the law and includes 6 obstacles suited for the busy city, including swinging on shipping cranes and finding a way through a crowd gathered for the city's carnival. All roads lead to a hidden temple and the man who hired the powder keg punks to attempt to kidnap Gattleby. This plays out as a 7-room dungeon, which concludes with the players learning that the formula for Pyronite has already been successfully reverse engineered by an unknown figure, which means their benefactors no longer have full control over this powerful explosive. Book 2, Cradle of Quartz. After a few days of downtime, the players are again contacted by Phoebe Dunsmith. This time she wants them to find the inventor she believes to have reverse engineered the formula for Pyronite. As with the key events in Book 1, this begins with a little bit of investigation that includes doing some research and interviewing people who know the inventor, and eventually leads to the inventor's private workshop. This plays out as an 8-room dungeon that concludes with the revelation that once again they're too late. Mugin and his goons beat them here, and the inventor has fled the scene. Fortunately, he has left behind some clues that can be deciphered to learn where he ran off to, which, unfortunately, is within the Mana Wastes and the Spell-Scarred Desert. Since walking the desert on foot would surely result in a TPK, the players will need to hire an airship and crew to ferry them to their destination. A few events and complications play out during this journey, including attacks from the local wildlife, some drama with their fellow passengers aboard the airship, and the chaotic weather found within the Mana Wastes. Eventually, the ship will bring the players as close to their destination as possible, but still leave them with a 2-day trek through the spell-scarred desert on foot. This will give them an opportunity to interact with some of the desert's unusual inhabitants before arriving at their destination. The inventor that they're in pursuit of has taken refuge in an ancient temple of Bree, which plays out as a 16-room dungeon populated with constructs, desert-dwelling creatures, and a monster known as the Claws of Time, which hunts them throughout the dungeon. Once the players find the inventor, they can leave the temple and return back to Alkenstar. Back in the city, the players learn that Mugin is deep in debt to a gang called the Gilded Gunners and has offered them a batch of Pyronite to pay off his debts. The Gilded Gunners plan to use it to blow up a high-end speakeasy owned by one of Mugin's rivals and rob its vault. Mugin sees this as both a means of paying off his debt as well as a test for Pyronite's explosive capabilities. Phoebe Dunsmith tasks the players with preventing this attack and trailing the Gilded Gunners back to their hideout. This is a timed event with a limited number of rounds and specific events that occur at the start of each of those rounds as the tables are turned, and instead of our outlaw heroes performing a heist, they are instead trying to defend against one. After the attack on the speakeasy, the players can either follow the Gilded Gunners back to their hideout or find it through a combination of investigations and interrogations. Their hideout is an 11-room dungeon that concludes with the players finally coming face to face with their nemesis, Ambrose Mugin, and an opportunity for vengeance. Book 3, The Smoking Gun. The players' celebrations are cut short as they learn that Mugin sold the formula for Pyronite to 2 different buyers, both of whom have reason to use the high explosive against Alkenstar. With the addition of the Crooked Shield Marshal who has aided Mugin since the start of the campaign, that means that 3 different groups now have access to the Pyronite formula, and the players' benefactors fear that it won't be long until the weapon is used against the city. The players are tasked with dealing with the Crooked Shield Marshal Lovelace first. This involves sneaking into the Shield Marshal's underground headquarters known as the Vault of Secrets in the most western way possible to gather intel on the Marshal's crooked leader. This investigation continues by attending a lavish gala where the players can rub shoulders with the social elite of the city to gather even more information. The clues gained from these events lead the players across the city through a series of events in hopes of identifying the buyers and catching them all before they can use Pyronite against the city. And that's where I'll pause this adventure overview for now. As is my custom, I prefer not to spoil material from the campaign's final act in this first video, but check out part 2 if you do want to hear more. So there you have it, an overview of Outlaws of Alkenstar for prospective GMs. Again, I will be following up this video with another that shares my personal take on the campaign, so be sure to share any questions you may have in the comments section here, and I'll try to address as many of those as I can. Just please keep in mind that I have not played this campaign, I've only read through it, so I may not be able to answer some things such as encounter balance. The second video will also discuss some of the spoiler material I omitted from this video. And, as always, I want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who supports me, whether that's by clicking the like button, subscribing to the Patreon, or subscribing to this channel. Thank you for all your support. With that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.